Wait for it here. Oh. Did you developers hear that? The new flavor from LaCroix. I don't work for LaCroix, but if I did, I drink limoncello, limoncello. I don't know. My sister told me about it. Legit, it tastes like lemon cake. It's so good. What's going on, developers? It's Real Tough Candy from realtoughcandy.com, soon to be realtoughcandy.io. TGIF working hard this week on the new platform, launching to select members in July and an official rollout in August 2020. Yes. So excited. This is a platform that's going to help you land a job, level up, get a raise, and all around rock at what you do. We've been working so hard on this thing, and every component has been gone over with a fine-tooth comb multiple times and will continue to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb and many other random instruments to ensure quality. How's everybody doing? Today's topic is not successful. You can be employed and still be unsuccessful, but employed software developers share their secrets, share their recipes for success. Now, today I don't have a guest on, so this is going to be really dependent on people in the chat. So if you're employed, working as a software developer, watching this video live, I really need to hear from you, or I don't have a show. And you don't want to watch me drink this water and spout nonsense for the next hour or so. So let me get into my control panel here. We will proceed with some pleasantries and we'll get right into it. I was inspired by today's topic because a few people that I know in my circle have gotten jobs in the last 2 weeks. And it's really inspiring to see. And I know a lot of people are struggling right now, of course, with the Rona and just life and other events. It's crazy right now, but people are still getting hired. So with everything going on, it is, and if your goal is to get a job in software development, you need to keep your eye on the prize. It is definitely, it's an uphill battle when you're a newbie, but new developers are getting hired every day. So why not you? Let's get some insights in what's going on. Let me go into my control panel here. What's up? We have 20 people in the chat already. William Claybrook. What's going on? Kaiser Isbell, hello. Paradoodly, our wonderful mod. Welcome, welcome. Ian Baylis, what's up, Ian? How's it going? Rebecca says she's working right now, so she's got to mostly concentrate on work. Well, Rebecca, if you have a moment or two and you can sneak off, let us know in your journeys, in your travels, in what you do. How did you get to where you are? What's your recipe? I was hesitant to call this video secrets because there aren't really any secrets. You know, this is 2020. We're more of a TMI oversharing type society. We don't like keeping secrets, and this is the type of thing you don't really keep secret anyway. It's more like a formula. So what is your formula for success? What is your formula for what was your formula for finding a job? What was your recipe for finding a job? Before we get into it though, I need to give a shout out to some folks. Number one, my patron supporters at patreon.com/realtoughcandy. They're holding it down financially, as are people like Chiquito. You can support the channel through PayPal. Shout out to my guy Chiquito. Thank you so much for your donations over the past, wow, lots of times. And also my YouTube channel members. They are designated with a little piece of candy next to their name in the chat. Their name is green and they have some pretty cool emojis. All of these folks come together to support this channel financially and make these videos possible. They make a lot of things on this channel go around, they give me the motivation, and they're a great group of people. So shout out to you all, and our new member, Rikers Island, is our newest patron. Patreon.com/realtoughcandy. Thank you, Rikers Island, for your support. Now, let's talk about it. Employed software developers, tell me your recipes. Elijah says, Friday, turn up. Manuel says, hi from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Hey, what's going on? I know there's a lag on this video, about 20 seconds, because I'm going through going through Zoom. So we'll wait for a few more people to file in and then we'll get into it. I am probably gonna, yes, William Claybrook blowing it up in the chat with those pieces of candy. Thank you, William, for your support and for making the chat a little sweeter. So I think we'll just start off by saying this, which I alluded to about 2 minutes ago. There is no secret to getting a job in software development. It's hard work from day one. This career field, software development, and let's define what software development is in 2020. Web development made in a major way. Everything's going to the web. There's web components in things you would have never thought possible. Stuff like Photoshop, like, wait, that's a web app? Ooh, what? You can do that in the cloud? What? Web development is absolutely massive. We have mobile development, we have desktop, we have IoT, we have artificial intelligence, machine learning, we have embedded software. Oh my gosh, I mean, the themes and variations of this career field, those are the big ones. I'm probably missing one or two, but those are the biggies. And it doesn't matter which discipline you choose. No matter what, it's a hard, difficult, fatiguing, uphill journey. And when we talk about these things, we talk about people entering the career field, we always say, tell me about your coding journey. Or when I was on my coding journey, as I'm proceeding on my coding journey, we say journey rather than learning track, or rather than 6 months spent isolated in a basement trying to learn HTML and CSS and the CSS grid and JavaScript and all this stuff, Angular, whatever, insert framework here. Bootstrap, which by the way, Bootstrap 5, which is in like a trial mode or like beta mode or something. Michael Kornblum told us about this in the Discord. Bootstrap 5 has no jQuery. I find this compelling, but that's going off topic. Teaching yourself Bootstrap. Where was I even going with this? I'm so one-track minded developers. I cannot think about two things at once. It's, as evidenced, I failed greatly. But the coding journey, right? It's continuous. It's lifelong. It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong trip. It's not just a one-time thing. It's not a 6-month thing or a 4-month thing you do at boot camp. It's not a 4-year thing you do at college. It's not a 2 month, 2 year, 2-decade thing you do by yourself in your attic. This is something you do throughout your life. And there are multiple reasons for that. Number one, there's so much to learn. Even if the world stopped and tech stopped evolving today, June 19th, 2020, you could not absorb 0.1%, a millionth of what is out there in terms of information, in terms of things you can do. It's literally infinite. By computing's very nature, what we do and how we do things, there are infinite combinations. And so that's why it doesn't just stop after 4 years. That's why it doesn't just stop after 2 months by yourself doing this. It's a journey. So what I'm saying is, and more to the point of this video, there's going to be, on your journey, there are going to be things where you're going to ask yourself, is this even worth it? You know, going to 10 job interviews, 10 developer interviews back to back, and each of those 10 saying thanks but no thanks, or even worse yet, leaving you hanging, and then a month later saying yeah, no, and not wanting to communicate with you after that. It's very dejecting. And so you tend to ask yourself, people tend to ask themselves, and this is where the imposter syndrome comes in too, because there are a lot of rejections going on. There are a lot of negative feedback events happening throughout this process. And you're thinking, is this worth it? What am I doing? And it's so easy to drift back into what you were doing previously. On this channel, we have a lot of career changers. We have a lot of people who are older, and by older, I mean not early 20s. We have such an incredible mix of people on this channel, and many of them are career changers. And that's really what makes the Discord so interesting, and the YouTube, and just interactive, the YouTube. I'm such a boomer. But YouTube's so interesting. Just everything we do with Real Tough Candy and seeing these people from various backgrounds, all trying to make a better life for themselves. And getting that rejection, you don't get rejected from fast food 10 times. You know what I mean? Not even for these other professional careers like a teacher. I would wager that most teachers don't get rejected back to back to back to back, even new ones. There's a lot of competition early on, where the real need for developers is in corporate is mid-level and mostly senior. So we talked about this a few weeks ago, the flood of junior developers and stuff, and that's always kind of been the case. There's always going to be people more at the front of the gate that taper off as they run the course. But getting that rejection is so, it can be so just, I don't want to say degrading, but it sucks. It stinks, but it's part of the journey. And you talk to people who now work in the industry, ask the modern developer, ask someone who's been in this career for less than 3 years, because things are changing, things have always changed. But I would say the last 2 to 3 years, if that person's got a job in the last 2 to 3 years, ask them, how many interviews have you been to? How many jobs did you apply to? I can tell you right now, I've applied between 60 and 70 jobs. And this wasn't just robo sending, like going on Indeed and you're like, apply, 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 apply. This was a custom cover letter. This was a custom resume because I tweaked my resume to fit the job opening. Because there are a lot of things that I keep my resume to 1 page. And so I keep things off and then I insert things that I may not include on another job opening. I customize that resume. I went through my portfolio with a fine tooth instrument, maybe a comb, I don't remember. It was something like there was care and consistency with the materials I sent these companies, and it was rejection after rejection. And I felt like a pretty strong candidate as a junior developer. Plus, I had over a year of freelancing experience when I was applying to these places. I had real projects. I had an e-commerce project I built for a freelance client that looked freaking good and it was functional. And I still couldn't land the job. I don't remember how many interviews I had. I interviewed with all sorts of companies, even ones I initially wasn't interested in, like, like startups. I really didn't want to work for a startup. I didn't want to move to the West Coast. I didn't want to move to the coasts and just immediately go into debt. Like I knew that was going to happen, and like trying to find housing and stuff. But even still, I interviewed with GitLab. I interviewed with 1 or 2 other startups, and just kind of a mix. Enterprise. I interviewed with a WordPress shop in Virginia. It was a mix, but it wasn't until like, I don't know. I don't want to give a solid number because I don't exactly remember off the top of my head, but it was months after I started the interview process where I finally had an interview where I finally got an offer. And I got multiple, like the way and I talk about this more in how to get a job in web development, like strategically applying to places. And that's where I started getting smarter about applying so that offers would come in and I could use the offers as leverage. So if someone lowballed me, but it was a company I wanted to work for, I could say, company B actually, they want to give me more. Can you match that? Or can we talk about that? So I used that to my advantage when I took my first role in enterprise development. And we talk about a bunch of other things in the book also. Paradoodly-doo, be a doll and pop that link. It's a book, and also it's going to be a video course I'm working on. So here's what's going to happen with the platform, realtoughcandy.io. I currently have 2 courses on Udemy. I'll be taking those off soon. I'm putting them on the platform, but in the process of getting this platform going, I'm also going to be revamping them, making them a little more relevant for 2020, 2021. So yeah, but just to give you the heads up, that course is also on Udemy at the moment. People who are enrolled right now in Freelance Newbie and how to get a job in web development, you're still going to have access to those courses if you're enrolled. It's not like everyone gets cut out of the picture. It's just that the courses on Udemy will not be open to new enrollments in a few weeks. So with that out of the way, that's a little bit about my early process. Tenacity. You have to be tough. The name of this channel is Real Tough Candy because I learned very early on that you have to be tough in this industry. even though we're behind a computer many hours of our days. We're not at a UFC ring, you know, fighting other developers at this point in time, but you still have to be tough, because early on, it's, again, there's a lot of competition for juniors, and it's savage. The other handicap that junior developers have, that aspiring developers have, is that companies want someone with 20 years experience in Dino, right? Just prepare, now that Dino is officially out, prepare to see these job listings, despite the fact that they're not going to be implementing Dino for another 6 months to a year, if at all, which probably they won't at all. You're going to see these ridiculous things like, dude, the framework hasn't even been out for a year. What are you saying, 5-10 years? But I'm rambling. Let's go to the comments. Vlazlo says, hey, Vlazlo, what's going on? I applied to about 20 jobs and was lucky with my second job interview. Nice. Hey, Donovan, how's it going? Welcome, and welcome everyone new. Code Dragon, welcome if you're just tuning in. Today's topic is employed software developers sharing their recipe for success. We're putting together these ingredients. Number 1, tenacity and not giving up. Vlazlo says, 1/2 of cup, he's got his recipe. Here's Vlazlo's recipe. Let me give you a little quick backstory about my guy Vlazlo. First of all, he's the one who sent me that hilarious job opening about doing light laundry in Nevada as a web developer at this like questionable massage place, like seriously. And it was like $12 an hour or something. And they wanted a developer. I think it was WordPress, but still they wanted you to do, if I remember correctly, they wanted you to do like custom themes and stuff, or like tweak their custom theme while doing light, dirty laundry. So rude. I wonder if they ever found someone for that position. But anyways, so Vlazlo landed a job. It wasn't remote. Now I think he is working remote because of the Rona and just being a responsible person, and coming into work is optional, but that's not what I was getting at. I think it was his second week on the job, he got a huge raise. He got a massive raise. Why? Because he knew a framework that his peers did not. And his company wanted him to take this and do this. So now, I mean, man, it was awesome to hear within those few short weeks, he was already riding high with the raise. And then that's a bullet point. That's a bullet point for the ages. So that's a little bit about Vlazlo. Let's go to what he said. The chat's kind of blowing up here. Let's see, where did that comment go? Where is Vlazlo's recipe card? Yeah, developers, put your recipe cards in the comments, your recipes for success. Vlazlo says, I applied about 20 jobs. Okay, I already read that one. Where's the other one? Where's the freaking recipe? It was 1/2 cup something. Let me see if I can find it. This is embarrassing. I'm so sorry, developers. The chat is just moving faster than I can navigate it. Let's see. Here we go. 1/2 cup of making an effort and 2 tons of doing my best to not get fired. Again, I'm going to read this again. This is a good one. 1/2 cup of making an effort and 2 tons of doing my best to not get fired. I can relate to that statement 100%. I write about it immensely in my 4th #1 Amazon book, Ding, product placement, real tough software. Oh my gosh. I was I mean, it was terrifying. Well, again, I need to preface this. I mention this a lot, but it is an important contextual note that I was a code newbie. I was a junior developer in a senior position. So that was, of course, number 1, stressful, but number 2, I had a lot of responsibilities, and I was expected to do things that a senior would, such as offer significant input, take control of projects, initiate on projects, be in direct contact with clients. And some of these clients have paid millions of dollars for the production and maintenance of their projects that we were responsible for. And so I had that 2 tons of, oh, please, please don't can me to, because you don't have that affirmation every time you change a line of code. There's no safety net. So it's like, okay, I'm going to try and change this loop and do like a map reduce, what's gonna happen? Like there's always there, I always had that hesitancy early on and thinking, oh man, is this gonna be the thing that just blows up the database, just like blows up our business logic, that just wipes out the tens of millions of dollars worth of code in this, on this machine? It's tough because when you're learning, especially if you're self-taught developer, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. It doesn't matter if your project completely explodes or implodes, because you don't have a client and you don't have those deadlines and you don't have really, the worst thing that's going to happen when you're doing a project on your own is that you're going to get frustrated that your work was lost. That sucks. That feeling stinks. But it's nothing like having a client's work end up like that. Or even just not knowing, like one of the hardest things, in my opinion, in my experience, and I think other developers will agree with me too, you cannot understand how to efficiently or even sufficiently use version control as by yourself. You need someone else, and you need to be working on a real project or a simulated real project, you know, pretending there's like a client on the other side of the wall there. Version control, because you're like, okay, get commit, get add, get push, get cherry pick. You're like, yeah, okay, this, I don't understand why you're saying it's so complicated. Once you start working with other developers, that's where the merge conflicts really start coming in. That's where all these other problems start coming in, and these flags and different things you should be using or could be using. You don't use them when you're just practicing Git by yourself. I think it's the hardest web skill to learn by yourself for sure. Let's check out these comments. Developers, we have 60 people here and 11 likes. Come on, I need some love. It's TGIF. Spread the love, show the love. Thanks for joining us today. We are checking out the comments, checking out people's recipes for their career success. What do they attribute? What skills did they use to get them a job and not get fired, as Vlazlo pointed out? 2 tons. Let's see. Rebecca says, I've been lucky that I found employment with companies that have no issues mentoring new devs. It's a small market, so it's hard to find devs. That's awesome. And that's a company culture thing too, where depending on where you are, it could be a geographical thing. It could be a company to company thing. Companies are very different. There's a reason we have things like grokking the coding interview, like Algo Expert. These are tools to help you with FANG level interviews. That's a FANG culture thing. That's an example of a FANG culture thing. If I had to guess, I would imagine that these companies also have a mentorship program. Some companies do. Outside of Silicon Valley, a lot of companies don't. So that's one thing too to consider as a newbie. And I wish I would have asked this in the job interview. Do you offer a mentorship program, or how can I get support as a new developer? Because all of this stuff changes. It's completely different than what you've been doing as a learner. Again, deadlines, clients, lots of money on the table. Even something like $10,000. Now, a couple of years ago, $10,000 was like, oh my, that's a lot of money. And it still is. Like, don't get me wrong, $10,000 is a lot of money. But once you get into enterprise, we're talking tens of millions of dollars. That's not uncommon. We talked about this last weekend or last Friday on the Fish Fry Friday, how this one website for tabs, for car tabs in Minnesota, the web app, they were billed, the state of Minnesota was billed $100 million and it still wasn't working. Now that's kind of an extreme example, but not really. What I'm saying is, when there's tens of millions of dollars on the line, and again, this is not uncommon, especially when it comes to maintenance and fee licensing and all this stuff, tens of millions of dollars for a web app and maintenance is not uncommon. It's really not. And once you start working on those things, it's light years ahead and light years difference than what you've been doing. And that to me was that was the culture shock that I had. Because not only was like my environment completely new, I am completely at ease in my coding environment at home. I feel comfortable. I don't have societal pressures, if that makes sense, or company pressures to do things a certain way. Once you get on the job, you have a new keyboard, you have a mouse. I never used a mouse, so that was like, I mean, it wasn't a huge deal, but it was still something different. And so all these differences start adding up. And it is a little bit of a culture shock. And then, you know, whether or not, hopefully your company has some documentation. The company I worked for did not. And so that was very difficult. Adhering to standards, yet not having the standards written down. So I'd have to go ask my senior, you know, how do we format this? Working with multiple frameworks, proprietary tech, trying to fuse it with web technology, very, very difficult. And trying to just make sense of all of that. Whew. It's for me, and it just keeps coming back to just the tenacity, staying tough, staying focused. And here's another ingredient that I want to add to my recipe. Asking questions, asking a lot of them. And going back to what Rebecca said about the mentorship program, if your company offers a mentorship program, take advantage of it. If you don't, you're a fool. You will learn so much. You will level up. You will set yourself up for a better job or a raise in that company. Or if you want to, you know, dip out after a year, go to another company. That's how a lot of people get their big raises. It's not the 70s or the 80s anymore. Like company loyalty is not a thing in the 21st century. It's not at all. And it's not uncommon to see people jump from job to job year after year, because number one, it's just what we do. And number two, you know, what I'm saying is there's no loyalty there. And number two, when you change jobs, that second job is going to see what you did at that first job and be like, okay, you proved your value. We're taking less of a chance on you now. Here's what we can offer you. And it's usually a significant, it's not always, but in a lot of cases, that's why people leave, because they can make more at other companies. And once you've proven that, once that 12-month grind at your first job is so important for so many reasons. And one of the reasons is that other companies are going to see what you added after that year on your little bullet points. And in your in-person interview, when you're talking to these people, talking about what you did that first year. And if you say, well, I, you know, kind of worked on some jQuery and yeah, I guess, you know, work with the team, it was whatever. If you come with that attitude and you didn't do a lot on your first year, you're not going to add value to that second company. But if you did pay attention, you did take on a mentor, either in the company or outside the company, you were doing these things, you were taking notes. Developers, that's the other ingredient, take notes. I have 2 filled notebooks just for my time I spent in enterprise. I was writing stuff down on the constant. Invaluable information with the processes that this company used, with the dysfunction, with the successes, with the money, with the clients, with the interpersonal communication, everything. I wrote everything down. That first year is vitally important. And again, going back to the mentorship thing, if they don't offer a mentorship, try and find one outside of your company. Donovan was on this channel a few weeks ago. He's been on the channel so many times. I love it. I can't wait for him to come back on the channel. But him and I are just like, sure, we completely love the idea of meetups and completely encourage people to go to meetups, because that is where connections and networking happens. And there's a good chance you can find a mentor there. And if you can't find one there, odds are there is someone there who may know someone who might be a good fit. So I can't emphasize that enough. Finding some guidance, because there are companies out there that won't give you guidance. And if I had to do it all over again, I would have found an additional mentor. I would have found multiple mentors. And at one time I did have more than one mentor. If there's nothing shameful about that. I know someone else who mentioned it a few months back. They're like, thanks for the advice. I have multiple mentors now. I'm like, right on. Because now you can get different perspectives. It's not just one person telling you it must be done this way. Your mentors may disagree when they feed you that information. So it makes you think and improves your critical thinking skills. Let's go to the comments here. I'm babbling. Developers, Yomomato-san, what's up? Main Street Studio, hey, hey, hey. Main Street's another person who just got a job in these last couple weeks. Hey, what's up, Janos? Just started. Let's see, some great comments today, developers. Keep it up. Troy Mitchell, what's going on? Beverly 2, Jay Austin, Rikers is here. How's it going? Stand Man, Elijah, Hilberto. Gotta welcome the peeps here. Julio, SM, Adrian, Carlos. Let's see, Ali, Krubel. Hi, hi, hi. All right, let's see what these comments are. You guys are blowing up the chat. Keep it up. Louise Sutton said, companies still want degrees. Not necessarily a degree if other things, let's say you're candidate A and here's candidate B. You guys are twins, you look identical, you have this exact same experience. You guys are carbon copies of one another. Is that possible? Carbon copy. Candidate B is your carbon copy. And your candidate B has a degree. That's the only thing that differentiates candidate B from you. That candidate is going to get the job. Now, people like to dump on college degrees. I myself have a lot of critiques about the modern college system, the modern educational system. However, I will say, even if you have a degree outside of tech, it's better than no degree outside of tech. Why? Because at the very minimum, that is shorthand, okay? On your resume, it's shorthand. It tells your employer in one single line that you have the discipline to show up to a place that you may not even like for 4 years, for 6 years, maybe even more. I have more certificates and degrees I know what to do with. Have they helped me get a job? You know, I got my first associates when I was 18. I couldn't even find a job. No one wanted to hire me. It was a tough job market back in the day. But like, as they say, there's like degree inflation. So like bachelor's is the new associates and like associates is the new high school diploma and master's is the new bachelor's, etc. I think that might be true. I don't know. I don't work in education all that much, like official, like brick and mortar education. In fact, I've never worked in brick and mortar education, so retract that. What I'm saying is, if you do have a college degree, I wouldn't be hesitant to put it on your resume. Oh, absolutely not. Even if it was a degree in art appreciation or something that has nothing to do with coding, again, it tells your employer, it is shorthand, tells your employer you have the discipline and the focus and the organizational skills to show up to a place for 4 years. That's pretty impressive. We're talking about bachelor's degrees, by the way. Associate's degrees are nothing to sneeze at either. But that said, there's no guarantees that you're going to get a job anyway. Because like I said, I got my associates when I was 18 and people didn't seem to be too impressed by that. So I don't know. Then again, I was a different person back in the day. So, you know, there are a lot of factors that go into that. Let's see. Let's go back into these comments. Oh my God. Rikers Island. Rikers Island blowing up the chat. Where is my, hold on. Where's my thing? Here it is. Rikers Island blowing up the chat. Woo! Rikers. That's incredible. Thank you so much for the super chat. My eyes are swirly right now. I suppose I could turn this off. Holy smokes. Rikers, what were we talking about? Wow, thanks for your support. I really appreciate that. Stan Demand says, Candy, how do you get an edge on the competition? Would knowing PHP give you an edge for a front-end role? That's a great question. That's a great question. Now, to address the specific question of PHP giving you an edge for a front-end role, on the face of it, I would say, well, that's not really front-end at all. So how does that relate? But then I'm thinking about it, it's like, okay, you got to think about it from an employer perspective. all employers, now this is the secret. This is the secret. This isn't a recipe. This is the secret. All employers want full stack developers, whether they say it or not. That's what they want. They want to pay somebody as little as possible to do everything. That's the goal, right? Keep costs down and keep production high. And what better way to do that than to search for unicorns who can do front end and back end. Why would we pay a front end developer $110,000 a year when we can pay a full stack developer $100,000 a year? I wonder which one the company's gonna prefer. Now, the reality is there are very few unicorns out there. I trained myself to be a full stack developer. I'm just better. I'm better with databases. I should have been a DBA, honestly. I'm better with databases, and I'm better with architecting and designing systems. Seriously, like, I don't know what I'm doing with these frameworks. I don't know what I'm doing with React. Like, as far as what am I doing here? Like, this isn't my domain. I don't really, yeah, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, there are employers who can see through that and be like, okay, this guy's gonna know PHP, but the issue is you need to find an employer that does use PHP. If you're applying to a front-end role with a shop that uses PHP in the back end, heck yeah, that's gonna give you an advantage. They're gonna put you to use. They're gonna put you to massive use. But if you're applying to a position where the back end is Node, not so much of a good match. Not so much of a good match if they're using Node or Java, but PHP, oh yeah. Oh yeah, that was a great question. I'm interested in hearing other people's thoughts on this as well. Let's see. Julio says, although some people think degrees are useless, a lot of employers definitely value a degree. They're the ones who create the jobs, so I'll take their opinion over some rebel students. Right, exactly. And again, developers, I need to emphasize this. What we see on the internet is only a slice of what's happening in society. Like most of our lives have moved online, but a lot of it just isn't reality. People come on and go to these social sites, they go to review sites when they're ticked off. So ask yourself this, or think about someone in your family or your network or your friends. When was the last time? What was your mental or emotional state when you said, I need to go on right now and review this restaurant? For me, it only happens when I'm really upset. When I got terrible service or no service, or when the food was absolutely disgusting, they should be ashamed to serve it. That's the first thing I go. I was like, okay, they treated me like trash. I gave them a chance, and now I have to share that I'm ticked. Whereas where I had just a blast of fives, just this 5 out of 5 experience up and down, I may or may not review it. I may or may not share my thoughts. If I do share my thoughts, they may be a month or two later or when someone asks me. But when I'm mad, I need somewhere to vent. So people, and what I'm saying is, we see people, we see videos, we see these things where it's like, it's a sham or it's not that good. A lot of people are just upset. Now, a lot of people are upset for a lot of valid reasons. There's someone in our Discord who got royally screwed with a boot camp. And this person is 100% valid in what happened. I'm talking about people, now contrast that experience with somebody who didn't put in the work, who got kicked out of the school, who didn't have a great experience because they weren't trying. And so that's the type of person who tries to blame the institution or blame another person when they're the ones being lazy, not putting in the effort, and trying to deflect them, just like kicking back and relaxing and wondering why they're not passing or wondering why they're not getting their diploma or their degree. Like, you have to put in the effort. So I guess what I'm saying is, when you read some of these experiences, especially, I mean, it's hard too, because we have, man, don't get me started with the boot camps. I can't get started with the boot camps. I can't. We have people, like, you read it too. You go to Reddit, and these people, they may get paid. They may be paid students. They may be paid to not talk about their experience. They may have people at the school writing reviews. I guess my biggest thing is to do your research and go to more than one source. Just like with finding a mentor, it's okay to go to multiple sources. It's okay to check out Reddit boards, Google reviews, whatever other sites, and try and find someone. Now, I know this is kind of going off topic a little bit. We're going to go back on topic, but I think this does somewhat relate to finding success and landing that job. Is that when you choose a school or choose an educational platform or choose a mentor, start vetting these people, okay? I'm not saying do a credit check, but do some research. Where do they work? What have they done? Have you talked to them on the phone? Have you interviewed them? This is your career. And that's another ingredient. You have to take control and you have to take charge of your life, because your mom is not going to tell you to pursue a career in web development. And if she does, you shouldn't just blindly do it. No one is going to whisper in your ear to take the initiative. Got to do it yourself. And you have to do it for yourself. You have to do it for yourself. When I started this channel, I was completely lost. I was so frustrated. I started off with a bajillion different resources, just like so many other developers. I was on Free Code Camp, and the night I discovered Free Code, it was a couple nights after I discovered Free Code Camp, I absolutely had it. And again, going back to that thing where I was angry, I wanted to express myself. I had to get it just out. And so I made this scathing video about Free Code Camp, and like, it was unfortunate because it wasn't Free Code Camp's fault. It was my frustration with my lack of progress or perceived lack of progress. So eventually, I got over it. Eventually I took the video down because I said, this is just embarrassing. And as I was growing as a developer, I looked back and said, oh my gosh, I've come so far. I was doing these Free Code Camp tutorial walkthroughs, just as clueless as the next person who is just as clueless, like blind leading the blind. And month after month, I look back, I had my journal because I always keep a journal. I've had one since I was 8 years old. Looking back on my journal and saying, oh my gosh, looking back on my code, my different projects, saying, oh my gosh, looking back at these small, teeny tiny projects, even these silly to-do lists, and saying, wow, 3 months ago, I had no idea what that was. I had no idea. I didn't even know how to open up a HTML bracket or a JavaScript clause. I didn't even know any of that stuff. And now look. And now a few years later, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to, that phrase, trust the process. I think that's a big thing. It will happen. But again, going back to that tenacity, you have to stay strong because it is very easy to fall off. And once you fall off, it's hard to get back on. Let's check the comments. William Claybrook, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, I'm looking at my viewer activity here and I'm seeing a lot of colors. Holy smokes, paradoodly-doo with the super chat. My contribution for the roof that Rikers Island blew up. Thank you. Donovan with the $9.99 super chat. Donovan, my guy, thank you for that super chat. He says, what paradoodly-doo said. I gotta piggyback. Can I give myself a super chat? Like, I wanna start, like, just keep this going. William Claybrook with a $10 super chat. Thank you, William. Just trying to help out with the roof. William and Donovan, channel members and great ones at that. Rikers Island. Is this, am I reading this right? Am I reading this right? Rikers Island says, well, I'm reading the message. He said that I don't have to call this one out. Well, I won't get out the megaphone, Rikers. I don't want to blow it up. I don't want to blow up your spot too much. But I sincerely appreciate that. That is absolutely wild. What William said, you're a superstar. That is some serious support right in the live stream. Holy smokes. We got a live one. Woo! All right. Thank you very much, you guys, for your super chats. Paradoodly, Rikers, Donovan, William, and Rikers blowing it up again. Holy crap. Arktec. Hey, Arktec, what's going on? Trial and error plus determination leads down the path of progress and understanding. I am gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna screenshot that. Hold on. That's a good, I like that. And it's totally true. Trial and error. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about trial and error. Because we live in an era where everything is so effortless, right? I don't even have to go up to my little control panel and click on or dial up. Does it? I mean, I'm not the only one here. Some of my old schoolers know what I'm saying. When it was an event to log on, it was an event to log on before your dad got home from work. That's what I did. He had his computing center. He had his computing center downstairs. He would get home at 5 o'clock. I got home around 3:45. And that hour and 15 minutes I had was just me and the internet. And it was an ordeal. Nowadays, it's not like that. It's everywhere. You swipe up and you have access. You open up the lid of your laptop, you have access. You plop down on your gaming chair and you have access. And it's seamless. And so we go through most of our technological lives with these seamless processes. And when things don't work, we flip out because the engineers that came before us have really smoothed these experiences over. And so I was on a government website the other day, and there is a map application that only worked in Internet Explorer. But I digress. Most of these our daily experiences online are completely uninterrupted. And so we don't have that trial and error to get our webpage to work when we're trying to check our email. We don't have a 404 when we're going to the Amazon.com's landing page. Like, it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. These experiences have been so smoothed out and so perfected. It's insane and so fast. And so the trial and error thing, once we start learning how to code, it's not smooth. And you're sitting there, whatever language it is, something won't compile, the JavaScript won't run, there's a million errors in the console. It's just like, what's going on? That's part of the process. And that for me personally was tough too, because I didn't have someone sitting next to me saying, this is okay. That's okay. It's okay that this isn't running. I'm so embarrassed to say that. It's funny now, but back then I just wanted to punch myself in the face. My first language, my first programming language I tried learning was Java. I swear, I spent 2 or 3 days trying to print a simple hello world program. Why didn't it work? Because I thought print line said print in. So instead of L, I was using a capital I. And I couldn't, I mean, I was good. That just upset me to them. And I said, what am I doing? What am I doing in this career field? I can't even, they did this in 2 seconds on this Coursera course, and it's taking me 2 freaking days. That's part of the process. That's part of the trial and error. It's very frustrating, but it really is. And in those 2 or 3 days, you know what I learned? I learned how to use Google. I couldn't find the answer to my problem. But I learned how to use Google. And I finally got some neurons to start firing. And it's funny how it works, because in the moments where you're not thinking about how your code works, something in your brain keeps running. There's some task runners in the back of your head that keep going once you stop thinking about it. And I said, wait, I don't know what I was doing. It was just a non-cerebral, I was washing the dishes or something. And my brain said, that's supposed to be print line. Doesn't that make more sense? It's an L, not an I. And so I went on my computer, I printed out hello world with print line. And I said, yes, validation, yes. And those are the moments we wait for. Those are the moments we celebrate. And those are the moments that make it all worth it. Trial and error. It's a big part of success when it comes to not only your personal growth and your personal development, but also what is going to lead you up to be a great candidate for a job. These things are frustrating, but they're part of the experience, they're part of the journey. So Yeah, let's see the comments. Guys, thanks for blowing up this chat so much. There are some wonderful comments here. We have some great supporters in the chat. Let's see what some other people are saying. Whoa, lots of great comments here. Ian says, Baylis Code, what's going on? I remember getting my company sued when I first started because I forgot to code something correctly, didn't get fired, but was in hot water. Wow, yeah, and those moments are terrifying. Those moments are terrifying. And it's just like, what do I do? Like, you don't intend, I mean, and that's the thing too. There are so many things that can go wrong and that do go wrong when we're working at our jobs. And it's not like we intentionally do these things. We don't sabotage the code on purpose. We don't forget these things on purpose. It's just, there's so much going on, whether you're new or not. Even mid-level and seniors are making mistakes all the time too. It's just easier to get in hot water as a junior because, you know, all eyes are on you. And you still have to prove yourself that way. But I mean, you can still, there are still a lot of mistakes. There are even bigger mistakes to be made once you get mid-level and senior, because at that point, especially at senior, you're probably going to be working with you're going to be overseeing someone or mentoring a new hire or something like that. So you're kind of like the mother hen or the father hen. Just go with it. The father hen. Candy, that's a rooster. Yes. Or the rooster when this new hire comes on board. And what happens when they goof up? Well, eyes are on you now too, because why weren't you mentoring this person or showing this person the ropes? So there's a lot of responsibility, you know, no matter where you are in your role or at that company. Let's go back to the comments here. Elijah said, question, too broke for a coding bootcamp but need structure. Is there any paid services better than free code camp or Udemy? The thing that came to the top of my head was App Academy Open. And I'm not sure what type of structure you're looking for. So I'll just give the preface this with, they don't have free mentoring, but they do have a free boot camp, and it's the same curriculum as their in-person boot camp. And they have an acceptance rate of their in-person of like 4%. So it's very choosy. They're very picky with who they choose. They do teach Ruby on Rails, so heads up with that. But that App Academy Open, I was very impressed with. It may be what you're looking for, it may be not, but that was the first thing that came to my head. And it's free, so you know, if it sucks, you don't have to be too depressed about it. Ian is, the Baylis Code is dropping a recipe in the chat. Okay, I'm gonna read this one. Don't be afraid. He said recipe 1. Don't be afraid to learn a language that is in demand but not popular in the dev community. I'm going to talk about this. This is a great recipe. Number 2, being confident, interested, and excited in the interview. And 3, know what is standard in the field. Wow. You know what? I'm gonna screenshot this too, because I might want to come back to this. I want to come back to this, maybe do a video on it, because that is absolutely true and golden. Number 1, I want to talk about ingredient 1 in Ian's recipe, the Baylis Code. In this recipe, don't be afraid to learn a language that is in demand but not popular in the dev community. Listen, in my enterprise job, right? We worked, this was an IBM shop from back in the day. Okay, this guy had been around pre-internet. There were a lot, there are IBM, proprietary IBM languages used in IBM ecosystem. Nobody, and I mean nobody, talks about those languages. But the reality is there is a need for developers with those languages, any proprietary language. Now, mind you, it's not exploding. It's not being hyped up like the latest and greatest JavaScript. However, there are a lot of people, and this is the thing. Listen to this. So the baby boomer generation, they're retiring in droves, not just in computing. This is a worldwide thing, retiring in droves. Who's going to replace them? Now, think about it. Think about the timeline here, going back to the 70s and 80s, when these proprietary languages started popping up with these companies. IBM, we also have older languages but they were still used in the 70s and 80s, and they continue to be used today, like COBOL. Think about it though, these people working in the 70s and 80s, they've been working for 40 years. They're ready for retirement. Who's gonna take their place? Who's gonna take their place? Not somebody in their 60s, not somebody in their 70s, somebody younger. Lots of opportunities with proprietary languages. Many, I promise you've never even heard of. How do you find these jobs? Some may ask. Well, number one, with the government jobs, because we talked about this a few times with the Rona, in the US at least. So the unemployment system, getting the checks sent out, getting everything verified and all this. In a lot of states, they're run on mainframe computers. Government computing infrastructure is freaking ancient. So they're running on these old languages. And because of the demand, 30 million odd people out of work, like overnight or within a few weeks, naturally, people working in these government positions were overwhelmed, the computers were overwhelmed, and they needed more developers to help them fix these problems so people could get paid. This is a very pressing problem. Your typical developer doesn't know COBOL, so those opportunities, weren't available to them. But the beautiful thing is, once you become a programmer and once you detach yourself from just a certain technology, you can teach yourself COBOL. You can build something in COBOL. I wouldn't recommend it just for fun, but something like that. There was a guy on this channel the other week. I think he said, now I could be just projecting here. So if the guy's in the chat, I really need to hear from you. I can tell you this much. He got a job working with COBOL with the government because of Rona. He previously did not work with COBOL. I want to say more, like he taught himself COBOL in a few days or something, but that's just me probably projecting or like hoping it's just like the success story of the century, which it may be, but I don't know. What I'm saying is, if you can do it, and going back to the college degree thing, these people don't care, even the government. If you can show that you can do it, please come help us. Now, this was an emergency situation. Government hiring doesn't work like this on a normal day, a normal tempo. But we're going to be seeing, this is my prediction, we're going to be seeing more technical emergencies with proprietary languages. There are a lot of slimy little proprietary languages out there waiting for you, but you don't hear about them for various reasons, because they're not as popular. They apply to a certain business. Sometimes it's just one company that has their own framework, their own language. But we could talk about this continuously. It's just, I love talking about it because it is an opportunity that doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. So I like to mention it whenever possible, but I'm not gonna, continue to talk about it because I understand that most people aren't interested in that, but I do want to give the public service announcement to people who may not have known about it and may find some interest in that. All right. Recipe ingredient number 2, being confident, interested, and excited in the interview. Yes. Developers, if you haven't read this comment, I highly suggest going to the chat and reading what the Baylis Code included in his recipe, because this is another golden ingredient, being confident, interested, and excited in the interview. Notice he didn't say passionate, which I love, because I don't think you have to be passionate. People express passion in various ways and in different ways. I'm not passionate about this career field. Like I mentioned in various streams of past, I enjoy this career field. I get energized working with people, but I am not passionate about working with code. I'm not. I enjoy it. And that's good enough for me. And bringing that energy to the interview is important, because if this is hard to articulate though, because people express their energies in different ways. Some people are very reserved. Some people, use a lot of body language, like myself. I have to use my hands. I have to be emotive when I'm speaking with someone, when I'm communicating with them. Now, sometimes, and now context is always important. Sometimes when the tone is somber, you'll see me like this. talking like this with a little less animation and a little more sobriety in my voice and a little more sobriety in my eyes and these other nonverbal communication cues. I think to add, if I could modify Ian's recipe a little bit, I would say bringing to the interview an assertiveness, an interest in what that company does. I've interviewed people in enterprise. I had the privilege of sitting in on interviews and asking questions as a junior. We were hiring for a proprietary language dev and another senior web dev. And I had the opportunity to ask these people questions, and I was also taking notes. And one thing I noticed is that, just me personally, I associated a higher quality candidate with good communication skills, with an interest in the company. People who didn't ask questions about the company, I was suspicious of. They didn't seem like it implied that they were only interested in getting paid. And if you bring that attitude to an interview, it doesn't look good. It's not a good look. You have to express interest in that company. How you do it is not up to me. You have to somehow express interest, and you have to find out more about that, how that company, what makes that company tick, and really just make some sort of connection. I mean, the reason you're going to that interview is because you want a job, right? Well, you got to act like it. You got to act like you want that job, and no one can tell you how. Okay, 2 minutes into the interview, smash your left hand with a fist and say, I want this job. Like, no one can tell you how to act at that interview. And you need to know, you need to prepare, maybe do some dry runs with a friend, like do a mock interview, and just get some guidance. Again, this is where mentors come in brilliantly too, to help you on that journey. But yeah, definitely expressing some life and being assertive in that interview is going to get you so far. I promise. Let's see, what was the third ingredient here? Let's see. 3, know what is standard in the field. Yes. I don't know if I can add any good insight on that. As is, it's a good ingredient. That's a good ingredient. He says those are things that help me in the beginning. Totally. Oh my God. Wait a minute. Let's see. Sorry, I was reading over these super chats again. I'm like, it's just crazy. Thank you so much for these super chats. Incredible. Main Street Studio says, when I joined this company, I wasn't a fully equipped software engineer. My manager who interviewed me saw it, and he decided to team me up with his best team so I can learn and sweat a lot. Let's see, developers, again, I know I said it like 6 times, but thanks for all your comments today. Donovan says, sorry I wasn't as active on here as I usually am. This was a busy Friday for me. Gotta pick up my godson, take care of everyone, and happy coding. TGIF, Donovan, thanks for the super chat. I hope you have a great weekend. Take care. Rizwan. Let's see. Main Street Studio says, I don't have a degree in what I do at work, but work with people who got degrees, and no lies, I always talk about you at work. Imagine just a stream that changed my life. Be blessed, ma'am. Thank you, Main Street. I really appreciate that. And I hope the job is going great. Let's see. Sarah is in the chat today. Sarah is another wonderful mod over at our Discord. Sarah or Para, if you haven't yet, please drop the Discord link. This is a place where we gather together to hang out, talk about code, talk about life, talk about just about anything of interest. Please be sure to read our code of conduct. It's what makes our community work and makes it so welcoming for everyone. We got a great comment from someone in Jax, Dana, and it was Dana in Jax, or sorry, I forgot your name. She's been working from home for 10 years, and she's new to the Discord and said what a great community it is. Really great to hear. So welcome to you, and welcome all Discord members too. If you enjoy it, if you enjoy the little chatty chat, come on down to our RTC Discord. Again, we have our wonderful mods over there, Sarah and Para. Sarah has some very insightful experience. A lot of people in boot camps. A lot of people in Flatiron right now. We have 3 people currently enrolled in Flatiron boot camp. We have people who graduated boot camps. We have people out who had some bad experiences with boot camps, and they are very knowledgeable and very insightful with what they share. So if you have any questions about that kind of stuff, you don't have to take it from me. We have a lot of people with a lot of different experiences there in the Discord, so check it out. A Reg says, although I've mostly learned everything myself, college has taught me how to learn the difficult stuff, and my degree has given me exposure to a gazillion different things because every semester is different. Gazillion. I love the quantification there because it is truly a gazillion things. No, and I think I can endorse that too. In college, if you're going for a bachelor's, there's no way out of it. You have to take those electives. And some of them are just like, dude, seriously? I think a lot of it comes down to the instructor. I've had courses I'm not necessarily interested in, like outside the gate, but once I get on the track and the instructor shows some interest and is like, it's hard for instructors to maintain that enthusiasm. Because think about it, every 3 months, every 4, whatever, how long is a semester? Every couple of months, that instructor is teaching the same thing to the same people enrolled in the same school with at the same level. And to do that semester after semester, year after year, and to have that enthusiasm and to keep that soul in their eyes and be excited about teaching it, that's what made me interested as a student. To see an instructor really believe what they were teaching and really say, hey, this is cool, right? And people are like groaning like, yeah, that's not cool. The teacher's like, no, this is cool. Here's why. Teachers who spent time outside of class helping me and talking with me about the material and just, how it fits in everything. The instructors are what made college interesting for me. And I think, I've gone to school online. I have a Oracle database certificate I got like a year and a half ago. And I've gone to school online for other things too. That element of the instructor being there and having that connection and having that interest in the material, I mean, it really takes away from the experience. Yeah, and doing things, and again, going back to that point about doing things that are tough, it's true. College makes you do things that are tough. When you have this homework, it's like, I have 3 hours of homework tonight, I have to study for this crap. It forces you, that structure forces you to pay attention and get organized, because if you don't, you get kicked out. If you don't, you fail the class. If you don't, you're out $2,000, $3,000. Or if you get booted out of college, it's all for nothing. So that's a great point, because when you're self-taught, what do people, so this is just like natural, like what do people do? Let's say this is a hot stovetop. What do people do when their hand lands on a hot stovetop? They rip it off like that, right? I hit my back on a doorknob. You guys can't see it. It's not an aquarium behind me, it's a door. Ow. But what happens? Like, it's instinctual, right? You're just like, that hurts. What college makes you do is hold your hand on that thing that burns. Please stop. For more than just a millisecond. It makes you get through those difficult things. And when we get to those hot stove moments when we're self-taught, we don't stick around for it. So when we're learning JavaScript, for example, and something doesn't make sense, let's say you're having a hard time learning or understanding how loops work, you tend to not dedicate a lot of time to that if you're not doing well with it. You're like, okay, well, I guess I'll go work on something I am good at, which, let's say you're great at HTML and CSS. So instead of, putting your hand on that stove for longer than necessary, you go to your happy zone, which is HTML and CSS. And that's really a disservice to yourself, but it's also a natural thing. And so that's a great point about college, because there are some things that absolutely you don't want to do, but you have to do them in order to pass. And just like in self-taught development, though, there are certain things you have to do in order to get a job. But you have the option. The option is more apparent when you're self-taught. You're like, well, you just go do something else. You don't have that option in college. You don't have that option in boot camp either. So good comment. Developers. BK Pro 24 says the Odin project is a free boot camp. Sarah says, I am horrible with interviews. Yeah, on the topic of being horrible with interviews, can we ask some employed developers in here? For employed developers right now who have a hard time with interviews, what are some ingredients for getting through those interviews? Or what are some tips or what are some tricks? Let's hear it. For me, they're nerve-wracking, honestly. Like, even though what I like to do is like at least 2 days before the interview, I'll start preparing. And I usually, after we set up the interview, is when I start doing my research about the company. But in order for me to like minimize my anxiety, I find that being educated minimizes my anxiety in a significant way. So that's what I do. I try to eliminate as many anxieties as possible from the interview, because interviews are inherently filled with nerve-wracking experiences and interactions. Like, these people are judging you, right? Like it or not, there's a table of people. Maybe it's just one person. I interviewed with 3 people at my in-person at one time. Like, I've done phone interviews too. I've done other in-persons. But when there's 3 people looking at you, judging you, it is pretty nerve-wracking, especially when you have to prove yourself. You're there to prove yourself or convince that company, convince those people to give you a job. There's a lot on the line. So what I'll do about 2 days prior, I will go back, review my notes, review my journal, what I wrote down about this company, what I wrote down about these people. I will also go to their site and read more about their company and just freshen up what I know about them. And also, the person who's going to be interviewing me, or the people who are going to be interviewing me, I'll read their bios, and then I'll have what I'll do. Now, this is going to impress an employer too, and it also reduces my anxiety because I know more. Like I said, the more I know, the less anxious I feel. So I'll research their bios, and when I'm at that interview, after we go over like some of the questions they have about me, and we're wrapping it up, I'll ask them about themselves, or like, hey, I saw you work with Angular. What do you think of it? Or I saw you are working with Vue on a side project. How's that going? And then kind of take up I don't lead with those kind of questions because those are kind of informal, and they're more just to build rapport with the employers, with the people at the interview, rather than have them being a critical key component. But that's something I like to do, and just to express to them that I did my research. Because again, going back to what Ian said about showing an interest, that's a big way. If you spend some time, if you spend an hour or 2 researching that company, researching those people, not stalking them, not personal Facebook messaging, not sending message requests or anything like that, don't get freaky, but just doing professional research on LinkedIn and stuff, and that company website, that shows a lot. That shows a lot of initiative, and it's a competitive advantage. So, and it's free. All you got to do is log onto their site, and if you don't have a LinkedIn account, just even sign up for a fake one. Like, you don't have to. I don't use LinkedIn. They kicked me off. I can't remember why. I honestly, I think it's because I was requesting too many connections at one time or something. They're just like, yeah, you're fake. Bye. Like, whatever. No loss to me. But I digress. Developers, let's check out the comments here. Paradoodly says, one major component of interviews is the company culture. That's something you can't fake. I'm gonna read that comment again. One major component of interviews is the company culture. That's something you can't fake. Can you expand on that, Paradoodly Do? Like, are you talking from an employer standpoint? Like the company can't fake the company can't fake the culture, or the interviewee can't fake? Tell me more. Oh, Midnight Sun, thank you for the super chat. Thoughts on Shopify development? Can you give me some more information on that? Thoughts on, like, my initial thoughts are like, yeah, why not? Shopify's great. It's a very clean platform. I started off with WooCommerce. I've built a few sites with WooCommerce. I've built a site with OpenCart, and I've built a site with Shopify, and I've played around with Shopify without deploying sites. So I have a few mock sites that I never deployed, but I deployed one of them and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. They use Liquid. I believe they still use Liquid, which is a templating language based on Ruby. It's gorgeous, it's clean, it's fun. What else? The backend admin stuff is super clean, super fast. So these just really, really well. I think it's a great e-commerce platform. Are you thinking of doing some stuff with it? Sarah says, what about self-doubt? I always do projects I think I can't do, but doubt is still the biggest obstacle. Yeah. What about self-doubt? I always do projects I think I can't do. One thing that helps me and has helped me is to break it down into the smallest pieces possible. So one thing that is just like, even to this day when I'm like doing some analysis and reviewing what other people are up to, because I still like to keep up with what other people are doing and seeing how they're doing things. And, you know, I don't want to be ignorant on the channel, so I like to keep updated. And so I'll go to the videos, I'll go to the blogs, and they'll say something like, in this tutorial, we're gonna build a Twitter clone. So for example, I was taking a look at Systems Expert. That's Clement's, one of his platforms. He does Algo Expert and Systems Expert. Some of the things he has you Arktec are like a type ahead system. I think it's a Twitter clone. So I'm reading the challenges, right? I'm reading the prompts. And one of the prompts, I believe, is develop a Twitter clone. If it wasn't Systems Expert, it was some other platform recently I saw. So I was like, okay, build a Twitter clone. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, what? Like, even to the, like, so I'm like, wait. That was me drifting into my old habits. Because every time, there are so many instances where you can get a project or get this assignment or something, and it's just like a glove to the face. You're like, it just knocks you out. Like, where do you even start? So what helps me, and this is something I have to consciously remind myself to do, is to break things down into the smallest pieces possible. And if I'm still in a corner, I'll start with something I can do, which is wireframe the site, wireframe the app, wireframe the tech, whatever it is. And by wireframing, I mean actually grabbing a piece of paper and a pen and drawing out the landing page for Twitter or Instagram. So let's say that the challenge is build a Twitter clone. There's a few requirements and like a few gotchas to be aware of that they list, but you're still like, okay, what? So what I would do is just start with a pen and paper and just break down the components. So, you know, of course, most website, I don't remember what Twitter landing page looks like or Instagram, whatever. So you would draw it out or wireframe it out, these various components. And then you can start feeling like that's a little more manageable, because now, instead of just being this abstract idea, it becomes concrete. You have an actual piece of paper with a landing page on it, a representation of a landing page. And in this landing page are components. And that is something I have to give major props to React and Vue for, is that they remind us that they remind us that an interface is simply a collection of components. It's a series of components. Components. And so when you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling this doubt, like, I don't even know where to start. Like, how many times, we've all said that, right? Especially as self-taught developers, I don't know where to start. I don't even know where to start with this. Start in the smallest way possible. Can you start with just the visual aspect of drawing it out? Can you start with just one little snippet of code that will give you some sort of interaction? Can you build that pop-up or that click event or code and on click? Can you code something small to get that interaction? And once you get that feedback, then you can gain some momentum. And that's the really important thing, is getting that momentum, because when you start off on a wrong foot and you just don't even know where to start, that's zero momentum. And you're gonna drift back. And that's really, I mean, it just encourages the self-doubt. So if you can get some sort of momentum, even just a little bit, that's gonna be positive feedback that'll keep you going and rolling more And this little teeny snowball is going to become an avalanche eventually, because you're going to keep working, you're going to keep iterating and improving things and rewriting things and having new ideas. I am not a neuroscientist, but I can tell you a lot happens offline in your brain. And when you're thinking of something, other things are happening too. I know it's true. I know it to be true. I know it to be true. Call me a charlatan, but I know it to be true. It's happened to me hundreds, thousands of times at this point, where I have no idea where to start. And I break it down to the smallest thing. And I'm like, okay, this is what I have to do. And if you truly are in a corner, code yourself into a corner and you're feeling that self-doubt, this is where a mentor comes into, because they're kind of like a sponsor for AA or something. You're just like, I'm having a crisis. Call that person, call that mentor, call them. If you hate the phone, like so many of us do, text. That's the biggest thing, just some sort of movement. Otherwise, that self-doubt is just gonna blow, is just gonna become larger than life. Let's see. Stan Demand says one feature or component at a time. Exactly, exactly. It's all about breaking it down. Whenever, and I want to say it happens to this day where I'm like reading some of these prompts, like, okay, build a type suggest feature, like kind of like Google, where you type it in your URL bar and they suggest things for you. Like, how would you build that? Like, oh my God, I don't even know where I would start. Start with the smallest thing possible. How build the URL bar, and then, you know, build that momentum. Some people say, well, get the hardest thing out of the way first. That's not how that works. That's not how this works in this industry. And again, I want to emphasize this also, that when they have you build Twitter clones and Instagram clones and Facebook clones, keep in mind in the real world, these applications were built by hundreds of developers, like over a long period of time. It wasn't just the first version of Facebook was nothing like the one we see now. So if they're telling you to rebuild Facebook in 2020, it's like, just remember, they have thousands of people. The company is huge, okay? One person is not responsible for that entire application in 2020. So just something to keep into perspective, because I know how dejecting it can feel. Those projects are really challenging, and that can be good to get, again, that momentum going. But at the same time, it's like, dude, seriously, how am I going to do this? Start small. Start small as possible. London Sky says where to get a mentor. Meetups, Discord, ask around, ask Twitter, go wherever. I know it's when you're looking for a mentor, it's going to sound like you're repeating yourself a lot, and you are, but also too, you have to convince, your job too is to convince the mentor that you are worth their time as well. This is one thing. I was talking with Tech Rally. He was a guest on our channel a few weeks ago about how sharing and how giving this community is as far as onboarding new developers. And it is, I had some wonderful people, even to this day, help me out in my journey, my coding journey. But that said, you have to be a player. You have to be a team player also, and kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say sell yourself, but in a way, yes, you have to convince them that you're worth the investment. Because this mentor is going to be spending hours with you. They're going to be taking time out of their day for free. So it's important to communicate why you want a mentor and what you hope to get out of the mentorship and what you need in a mentor. Very important. Interview your mentor. Like I said, vet these people. Not all mentors are going to be good fits. So don't take the first one that comes your way. Don't say yes, within the first 2 minutes. If you meet someone at a meetup who is offering a mentorship, you talk with them a few times. You don't have to say yes. This is a person who is volunteering their time. Their time is very valuable, but you also want to make sure it's a good fit for you and for that mentor too, because odds are that person has connections this is a small freaking industry. You don't want to leave a bad impression when you're new to the industry. So I hope that helped. Let's see. Alec, what's going on? Yeah, Sarah says meetups when they start back up. Totally. Yeah, man, I know. I have gone to a few virtual meetups that have been very fruitful. Now, I want to tell you guys, Women Who Code, they're doing online, but it's not just open to women. All right, it's open to everyone, everybody. But you do have to. What was the wording? I don't want to misquote them. You basically have to, affirm that you believe in their mission. So you could be. It's open to anyone. I went to a CSS architecting meetup the other week. I went to deploying with Netlify meetup. Great presentations, great meetups. They break into smaller groups afterward. So that could be a stopgap measure. The in-person meetups, nothing really compares, but because of the Rona, everything's on hold. Women Who Code San Diego do monthly meetups online. They might even be more frequently, I'm not sure. Dana, what's going on? Brian, Sarah S, great points. Let's see. Dana asks, how long should I or others give themselves after graduation to find a job? Also, is it possible to work remote with a secure job? Well, that's interesting you asked that about. Let's talk about the remote work, because generally speaking, employers are very hesitant to hire new developers and put them on remote because for one, you don't get exposed to the company culture that way. So the expectations may not be there, the expectations may not be communicated or emphasized as well when you're working remotely. Number two, the trust factor just isn't quite there yet. That said, I know a junior who just started a remote job the other week, or this week rather, and a few other juniors they spent a few weeks on the job and then went remote. They met their people, they convinced their boss they weren't a psychopath, etc. They were who they said they were. They built that trust, and now they're able to work remotely. And also too, because of the Rona, more employers are doing it out of a safety perspective, or from a safety perspective. So your chances are not slim to none. Your chances of working remotely are a lot better than they were last year, for example. Let's go to your first question about how long. Let's see, where did it go? Sean says, are you from San Diego? Me too. I'm still a newbie. No, I'm not from San Diego. No, Sean, I am not from San Diego. I would love to visit San Diego, but I was on the meetups and I was jonesing for a meetup, and I found out about these Women Who Code meetups, and the one in San Diego is very tech savvy, as of course it's Women Who Code, so of course they're tech savvy, but they're really quick to get online with the virtual meetups. So yeah, I mean, like I said, they did one just this last 2 weeks ago about Netlify, deploying to Netlify. They have guest speakers. And it was, gosh, was that the one? There was another one. They're all meshed together. But anyways, I've already gone to like 4 of them. And they're great. There's some in Denver that are doing online. And it's not just Women Who Code. I would go to Meetup and check for virtual meetups. And hopefully, it all depends on the state. But, if you're in the States, if you're somewhere around the globe, I would check too. But eventually we're going to get back to those in-person meetups, which are just honeypots of opportunity. So developers, it's 5:30. I'm going to wind this chat down. Thank you for tuning in. I hope today's video was helpful for some people, giving you some insights about sharing that recipe for success, for getting that job. We talked about a lot of things. There were so many great comments. If you're watching this on the replay, be sure to enable the live chat. You have the option of selecting top comments or all comments. But either way, great insights today. I want to give a shout out to my patrons who tuned in, my YouTube channel members, Chiquito, Sarah O, and Paradoodly Do are excellent mods, as well as the people who blew up the chat today with the super chats. Rikers Island with the double danger $100 back-to-back super chat. my guy. I heartily appreciate that. Paradoodly do, Donovan, William Claybrook, and Midnight Sun also for their super chats. If you want to continue the conversation, log on to our Discord. Like I said, there's a wide variety of people from all different backgrounds, all different experiences. We have people in management, we have senior developers, we have mid-level, we have people working at a job that's their first job, we have people still aspiring, we have people not even interested in coding, they just hang out because it's a cool place. So if you're interested in continuing what we talked about today, check it out. Yesterday, oh my gosh, yesterday's conversation in general, our general room was amazing. I didn't participate, but I was reading it. It was about boot camps. There's so much to talk about with those. They're so interesting, to say the least. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you have a great weekend. We got some videos coming up. A lot of videos. I'm upping my game here at Real Tough Candy headquarters. So expect some cool scenes coming up very soon. Now, on that note, I am going to log off. This is always an awkward thing because of Zoom, but I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Yeah, was that a lie? No, I don't think so. See you guys.